two officers identified as Greenslade and Officer Young guilty of manslaughter of a 21-year-old Shaton Forbes back on March 26, 2019 in the Yellow Elder community. Police at the time reported that the officers responded to a call of an armed male in Yellow Elder Gardens. Now, police say that upon their arrival, they approached the suspect. However, they reported that the victim shot at them. Police also alleged that they recovered a 9mm pistol from the scene, but Forbes' family insisted that their relative was never armed or owned a gun. Meantime, the National Security Minister, Wayne Monroe, calling on residents to partner with police in getting illegal weapons off the street. Officials say most of the serious crimes committed in-country have been done using illegal firearms and says it's a concern which Monroe says could worsen if officials don't prevent these weapons from falling into the wrong hands.
The public can determine whether or not in us addressing too many firearms on the street, too many people using firearms indiscriminately, they wish to participate with the police in locating these firearms, taking them off the street, or whether they're content for these firearms to remain on the street and to potentially be used. What this event shows is that firearms, to put it lightly, because we've seen it in a number of occasions. We've seen a young boy shot and killed when he was on his father's lap in his car. We've seen a woman going to prayer meeting shot. If we don't need any other examples as to why we need to get firearms off our street, out of the hands of people, I don't know what would be the answer. We've had a policeman shot in a pursuit. So all of this are matters that they take under consideration. We ask for the assistance of the public, particularly in letting the police know who has these guns and where they are.
Well, police officials are also warning the public tonight from engaging in sales through social media, which they say could put you at risk of being robbed. That's the advice coming tonight from Chief Superintendent of Police Kristen Skippings, who says authorities have noticed a trend with residents seeking to purchase items from individuals who request to locate at what officials say are unsafe areas. Now, Skippings is advising residents to reach out to police to evade these circumstances.
There are many persons who go on Facebook and they meet persons online and they arrange to purchase cell phones or vehicles, and they decide that they're going to meet them at various locations. It can be a service station, a parking lot, a park. And then what we ultimately find happening is that when these persons arrange with the seller who has ulterior motives, what happens when they arrive, they're being robbed. What I want to encourage persons to do, if you have met someone online and they have agreed to sell their vehicle or to sell you a phone or some other item, I'm asking you, go to the nearest police station, speak with the corporal, the sergeant, or the inspector or the constable, whomever is in that station. Let them know that you want to make a transaction between you and a seller. Let them be present to ensure your safety.
Well, in other news tonight, government intends to advance a suite of legislation on the regulation of cannabis, which will create a new agri-business industry here in the Bahamas. The marijuana legislation, according to Attorney General Ryan Pinder, is internationally benchmarked against the countries around the world also participating in the industry. Now, the framework will be for the regulation of medicinal cannabis from the farm to the border and will also provide a separate regulatory framework for industrial hemp, wellness products, and for pure industrial uses, including clothing, rope, and building material, all from hemp.
So the compendium has been thoroughly reviewed by the Ministry of Health, has been taken to Cabinet, and in short order we'll be launching the framework for public consultations that will occur over the summer months.
Opposition leader Michael Pintard raising concern this week about how the country's natural assets will be managed under the newly established National Investment Fund. Well, Prime Minister Philip Davis, in response, says the idea that Bahamian citizens could be paid dividends from the selling of blue or green carbon credits, if at all, is many years away. Now, during his budget debate contribution, Pintard asked for clarity on the move from the Sovereign Wealth Fund to the new investment instrument now being used to manage proceeds from natural resources.
Did not address in any manner the nexus, the connection between the whole carbon credit regime and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I believe it would be an important intervention to talk about what is that connection between proceeds that will be derived from what is an innovative attempt to monetize the carbon credits, but at the same time, how do we make the connection between what we intend to derive from that and the Sovereign Wealth Fund?
Well, Prime Minister Davis, in responding to Pintard, asserted that though the Bahamas will have a sovereign wealth fund eventually, the current legislation, he says, sets up a mechanism of funding to ensure that the country's assets can create further revenue streams.
Eventually, we may have a sovereign wealth fund. But what we have done is we set up a mechanism for funding to ensure that we could invest assets for return to again create further revenue streams to help us pay the country's bills, to help the country to provide the services that they're obligated to their citizenry. And so the time, you should be lending your voice to the exploitation of our resources for the purposes of taking care of our bills. And yes, if you reach a point where we could lower taxes, for example, we could provide more free services, government services, for example, because we have identified streams, because we have very effectively managed our resources.
Well, Minister of Family Island Affairs Clay Sweeting standing his ground on the thoughts of local government being implemented here in the capital when faced with the question since coming into office on if government will implement local government in New Providence. Minister Sweeting has gone on record to say before that they must ensure that local government is fully functioning in the Family Islands.
I've been asked this question probably once every week for the past few weeks, and I've been, my story's been the same. We're looking at local government in the Family Islands, how we can enhance it, make it more feasible, and fix the issues there. One of those was funding. In the upcoming budget today, I'll be speaking about how we increased funding 10% across the board for every Family Island district, and we're also looking at how we can strengthen them and give them ways to raise revenue on the south. So that legislation, hopefully the amendment should be there by the end of this year. It's at the AG's office now. So we'll continue to strengthen that, and then after we feel that that's feasible, seamless, and caters to the needs of the communities, then we can look at New Providence.
Meantime, the long-awaited Freedom of Information Act system could be ready for rollout by the end of the year. Our Laurencia Smith has this update.
The rollout and testing phase of the Freedom of Information system is expected to be ready by November of this year. This coming from State Minister for Legal Affairs Jomo Campbell.
Under the mentioned IDB loan, the bidding process to choose a vendor to provide a tracking system has begun, and the award of the bid should be announced shortly after which the system will be built and user tested before implementation.
Campbell further explained how funding from the IDB will be central to the rollout of the system.
Under the resources of a $30 million loan program sponsored by the IDB, a consultant has been chosen and has developed a national implementation plan for the phased rollout of the Freedom of Information. This national implementation plan has been presented to Cabinet and approved.
A stakeholders committee has been appointed, and the Centerville MP says that they have met on several occasions to map out the way forward.
And is now tasked with reviewing the implementation plan and advising the Office of the Commissioner. Their support has been crucial. Madam Speaker, full implementation of freedom of information is a process that must be undertaken in stages.
Key ministries have been identified as the pilot agencies to test the system, according to Campbell.
The Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Works, Bahamas Power and Light, Department of Public Procurement, the Treasury, Bahamas Investment Authority, the Ministry of the Public Service, the Ministry of the Environment, and the Department of Immigration.
The Ingram administration had passed the FOIA shortly before the 2012 general election, but gave no date for enactment. Months before the 2017 general election, the Christie administration passed a revised version of the FOI. Laurentia Smith, Eyewitness News.
Well, PACE officials tonight are calling on parents to do more with their children to stem the tide of teenage pregnancy. Our Tyler Simonet has more in this report.
In an effort to address the growing concern of teenage pregnancy, PACE President Sonia Brown is calling on parents across the country to have open and honest conversations with their children about sexual health.
I really want to encourage parents to have open and honest conversations with your children about preventing pregnancy. If you don't have the information, seek out the information. We need to do all that we can to stem the tide of teenage pregnancy so that we can really make the best of our young people. They shouldn't be burdened with pregnancy while they're teenagers.
Her comments come off the heels of Queens in Action Bahamas Foundation making a donation to the girls in the PACE program as they head into the summer break. The foundation donated a variety of baby products, feminine products, and bags. Principal of PACE, Patrice Miller, says they're always grateful for the helping hand.
This is a great opportunity because what it shows us is that they have our girls at heart and that they are supporting the work that we are doing here at PACE. The summer break, what we do, we usually hold programs here at PACE, either cosmetology or hair braiding, but we also look for jobs for the girls so that they won't be idle during the summer break. So as many jobs that we can find, we would provide for the girls here at PACE.
Anne-Marie Davis of the Office of the Spouse of the Prime Minister was also present for the donation and offered encouraging words to the girls.
Opportunities await you, you know. You just haven't seen it yet, but doors will start opening. Once you're optimistic, doors start opening. And you have to find the voice inside of you that is telling you to dream about this is what you want to become. The voice inside of you tells you what you want to do. And you follow that voice because it is the dream that you're seeing.
She also encourages parents to not solely focus on their daughters when faced with teenage pregnancy, but to encourage their sons to be more responsible.
Later on, when the child is born, they would look for a father figure. And one of the reasons why we have numerous problems these days, a lot of problems, is because of the absence of the father figure in our homes and in the lives of the child. So it's a good thing that PACE is starting the program, including the father, even though they might be young teenagers themselves, but for them to know and understand that they should take responsibility.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Well, if you've got a news tip or if you've seen news in the making, call the Ion News hotline at 397-6397. We also invite you to send your letters to the editor for publication on all of our social media platforms at eyewitnessnewsbahamas@gmail.com. And if you're watching on our Facebook or YouTube page, share your thoughts about today's stories in the comments section. We want to hear from you. We are just getting started in Eyewitness News tonight. But when we come back, staff at the Attorney General's office getting expanded benefits. We've got that story coming up. And later, those of you with kids, we've got a summer program just for you. More on that right after this break.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Mobile Garage Fleet Software, the Bahamas' #1 fleet management software, backed by Azuga, a Bridgestone company. Schedule your free demo today.
Welcome back. Here's a look at your Eyewitness News gas tracker. $5.85, your new local average for a gallon of gas. You'll get the cheapest at Esso, who had a slight increase, $5.75. Shell coming in at $5.85. Rubis still under $6 at $5.95. Well, lawyers within the Office of the Attorney General's office now have access to affordable health insurance. Earlier this week, the agreement was made with Colina Insurance Group. It's a move that was necessary, according to the Attorney General, Ryan Pinder, who says he made it his mission to make it a reality.
No, attorneys in the Attorney General's office have never had health insurance. I was surprised when I got into the chair as well. And it was one of the things that I had pledged to get across the finish line. It is a more than suitable benefit that attorneys should have. And so they will pay 20% of the premium. The government will pay 80% of the premium. So they'll contribute to a small amount towards the premium. And this is a gold standard health insurance program offered by Colina. So this is what you would find at law firms in the private sector.
Pinder adds that it's a critical move to improve benefits within the AG's office to ensure that lawyers are able to be retained for years to come.
It's comparable to what you would find in law firms in the private sector. And it's going to go a long way to on our journey to increase the retention of lawyers. As you would know, and I'm not the first Attorney General to have said this, but attorney retention is difficult in the Office of the Attorney General. Private sector pay scales are much higher than we offer in government, and so we need to supplement that with other types of benefits to ensure that we can recruit, retain, and be attractive to attorneys working in the Bahamas. And so this is one step in that direction.
Well, State Minister with responsibility for the National Insurance Board telling Eyewitness News of unscrupulous practices being committed by businesses in the private sector where employers are not paying the mandatory contributions. This comes days after the minister also revealed that several government agencies have also been delinquent. Now, LaRota says that government has a zero-tolerance approach to these practices, especially at a time when the NIB fund is facing major depletion.
For the most part, it has. I think there may have been some duplications. There have been individuals who were receiving benefits while we're also working. We also know that in some cases, and I want to be very guarded, but there were situations where persons were working in the private sector were collecting their salaries either in cash or with the understanding from the employer that NIB not be notified.
Well, on the 12th of July, the Bahamas will be hosting its very first Sustainable Development Goals. It's a press conference at the Performing Arts Center at the University of the Bahamas from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, the theme of the conference will be Transforming Our Bahamas Through Economic Prosperity, Social Inclusion, and Partnership for Sustainable Development. Human rights activist Erin Brown shares the details.
There will be 4 panels. The first panel focused on SDGs and how they intersect with the Prime Minister's areas of focus, education, crime, and the economy. The second on economic prosperity, and third on social inclusion for sustainable development. The fourth panel will focus on Sustainable Development Goal 17, Partnerships for the Goal. The Prime Minister and other relevant ministers will sit on the first panel. The second and third panels will consist of the SDG, Economic Prosperity, and the Social Inclusion Technical Committees, along with other relevant guest panelists.
Well, the first Bahamas Youth Climate Conference will also be held next month on July 13th to 14th, where young people concerned about climate change are invited to participate. Now, they will be able to compete for a spot on government's delegation to COP28 in Dubai.
Young persons ages 15 through 25 throughout the country are free to register to participate physically or virtually at the event. Registration deadline for the National Climate Conference is June 30th, and the deadline for applications for the COP28 competition is July 28, 2023. As a small island nation, the Bahamas experiences a unique set of challenges that are only compounded by the devastating effects of climate change. Therefore, it is important that we, as the youth of the nation, arm ourselves with the requisite tools to actively participate in the global climate discussion.
Well, get ready for Sustainable Summer. It's a summer camp aimed at teaching kids ages 8 to 13 about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to help the country get to 2030. Now, according to co-organizer Ava Turnquest, students during the camp will touch on topical social issues like zero poverty and innovation in industry with the hope of creating a more positive, sustainable future.
And so what we've done at the campus, we've taken these goals and we've re-envisioned them, reimagined them, and say, what if they were, instead of goals, what if they were facts or statements? And what if this was the reality for campers? How would that look? What were the things that they would be doing in an environment where we were actively working towards zero hunger? What are some of the things that we'll be doing? Will we be farming? Will we have a society that is more based on agricultural products, more based on marine conservation, more based on reducing waste? And so we're getting the campers to actually think about these things and think about solutions.
Well, the camp organizers feel that this will ultimately impact the future of the Bahamas. Co-founder Kia Newton is inviting all to bring their kids out while they're home for the summer holidays.
Because now is the time. We see Bahamians interested in farmers markets. We're seeing Facebook pages blow up on gardening. Bahamians in general want to know how to be self-sufficient, and we want to encourage kids to show them that they can be self-sufficient, that they don't have to wait to be mommy and daddy's age to start making big changes in our nation. Now is really the time.
You can go on to sustainableme.org and you can log on there. We're also available on Facebook, Sustainable Me Summer Camp. You can contact both myself, 558-0182, or you can reach out to us, sus.camp on Instagram and I think on TikTok as well.
Well, still to come in Eyewitness News, we get an update on the Straw Market Authority. We've got that story coming up. But first, here's a check on tonight's weather forecast.
This portion of the news is brought to you by J.S. Johnson, Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Your live look this Friday over Montague Beach, where the temperature right around 86 degrees. It was very hot today with an expected dip of 80. This is Eyewitness News. Welcome back. Well, the Straw Market Authority is making some major upgrades in this upcoming fiscal budget to several of the markets around the island. This according to their parliamentary secretary. Our Laurentia Smith has more on these upgrades.
Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Works, Barkus Roll, who has responsibility for the Straw Market Authority, told Parliament during his budget contribution that the authority is well on its way to making a full recovery on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now he explains what the profit margin will look like from booth rentals at the main market.
That the Straw Market Authority and markets under its purview are well on the way to a full recovery after the devastating setback it sustained due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Roll did not give a dollar value on how much repairs at the Paradise Island market will be, but provided this update.
Renovations to the Paradise Island Straw Market are about 80% complete, and we expect to announce its completion by August 31st of 2023, with the official reopening schedule for soon after, and the relaunch of the Paradise Island facility has led to discussions with Atlantis Resorts on the marketing of this venue as a premier cultural attraction to the guests for the resort.
Fort Charlotte Straw Market repairs is nearly 75% completed and is expected to be done by the end of this year, according to the South Beach MP.
As such, this market is expected to reopen with a different flair, inclusive of lively weekly performances by Bahamian entertainers and culinary artists with display of authentic Bahamian cuisine that will also be available at this venue by approved vendors. Hair braidings and storytelling will also be incorporated into this concept to assist in the creation of an indigenous cultural environment.
Now, Roll says that he expects works at the Straw Market to start in the coming weeks.
That the new Fort Fincastle Market is a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Works and the AAMC. Mr. Deputy Speaker, plans for this new market, the landscape of the market grounds, and the refurbishment of the historic water tower has been presented to and approved by the AAMC. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, we fully expect works to begin in the coming months.
Laurentia Smith, Eyewitness News.
Well, still to come in Eyewitness News tonight, our Devontae Hanna has your latest check on sports. Good evening, Devontae.
Well, good evening, Janae. The Bahamas Games is just weeks away. We have just a look into the preparation leading up to the competition in sports right after this break.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Hennessy, the spirit of sports in the Bahamas.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank God it's Friday, and welcome to Eyewitness Sports. I'm Devontae Hanna. Well, in just a few weeks, athletes from across the archipelago will convene in the capital for bragging rights and to be called the best in the country. Laurentia Smith caught up with the woman in charge of operations for the upcoming Bahamas Games to see how preparations are progressing.
Operation Manager for the Bahama Games, Minez Cargill Sherman, telling Eyewitness Sports that she and her team is on the ground working closely with Sporting Federation and Family Island Sports Councils. 10 teams are expected to take part in the games. Cargill Sherman explains how they were selected.
Each island, we try to ensure that everybody have about the same amount of athletes. So some of the islands, we had to group them. Like you have Makewana, Inagua, Cricket Island, Acklands, and Long Key, Michael. Basically, like how you would find the elections, the same layout. So coming out of that structure, we came up with 10 teams.
The 6th edition of the Games is set for July 7th to the 15th, and more than 2,000 athletes are set to showcase their talents. The operation manager says that the sporting councils have already been given their mandates to ensure that their teams are ready for competition.
The island teams come up with enough participants to partake in all the various sports. They have to ensure uniforms. They responsible to have fundraisers and the works. Now the government would normally take care of the travel, the accommodations, stuff like that.
Cargill Sherman tells us that the last Games was held more than 20 years ago, and she's looking forward to executing this game.
This one is special for us. It's a lot of work, of course, because now you have a whole generation that practically knows nothing about the Bahamas Games. So you find yourself having to actually explain to persons what the Bahamas Games is all about.
Laurentia Smith, Eyewitness Sports.
Well, the National Swimming Championships are back with over 600 athletes vying to represent the Bahamas on national teams around the world. The action at the Betty Kelly Kenning Swim Complex kicked off yesterday and will continue into Sunday. But along with the athletes' preparations to make this a great competition, corporate Bahamas was also needed on board to do their part. One such company sponsoring the games is Canoe Pays. Chairman and Bahamian Olympian and former swimmer Nicholas Reese says the company is proud to do their part.
We believe that, through sports, the young persons can get tremendous opportunity. It also teaches them significant values and principles that translate into the business world. I would have been a benefactor of that, and also been a benefactor of having swum in this pool for many years, although we didn't get the pool until it was much later in my career. But I'm happy to be here and really kind of come back full circle and give back to the sport that gave so much to myself and to others. We have some of our co-founders, their kids are swimming here this week as well. And so we're looking forward to watching some great fast times, and some Olympic qualifiers may pop up this weekend as well.
Well, your sports moment of the week goes to Anthony Strawn, who is having the best season of a life after clocking a personal best in the 100 meters in 10.92 seconds in the Oslo Diamond League yesterday. She finished second behind Mari Jose Talu, who clocked a meeting record of 10.75 seconds. Strawn is by far having one of her most consistent seasons and now solidifies herself as the 4th fastest Bahamian woman of all time over the 100 meters. Well, congratulations to Anthony Strawn there. Well, that's a look at sports. Once again, I'm Devontae Hanna. Stay tuned, though. More news is right after this break.
You're watching Eyewitness News.
Welcome back. Well, in a world where self-care and all-natural products are gaining increasing popularity, we delve into a journey of Philia Forbes. She's a breast cancer survivor who transformed her personal battle into a thriving business, Bella Bath Delights and Candles, and she's offering alternative gifts for this Father's Day. Our Tyler Simonet has more in this week's edition of Trending with Tyler.
In a world filled with mass-produced products and synthetic ingredients, one entrepreneur is striving to make a difference. Philia Forbes is the resilient founder of Bella Bath Delights and Candle, a business started from the need for all-natural self-care products.
Bella Bath Delights was started in 2017, and it actually a mom and daughter duo. My daughter actually started the company herself as a way for her to make her own money. And from there, she kind of stood back and when I battled breast cancer, and that was in 2015. So after going through breast cancer, you know, I tried to use all natural products in everything that I did, and that's where most of Bella Bath Delights really came from.
From handcrafted body scrubs and body butters to scented body washes and beyond, each item is carefully made with love and attention.
An array of products that range from body butters, sugar scrubs, body wash, lip balms, foot salves. We have beard kits for the men, you know, candles, and so forth. We also have products that are I would say they're organic, but they're safe for kids as well. So we make products like eczema relief, body butters for kids who have eczema.
As Father's Day quickly approaches, Philia is seeking to offer something more unique for those looking to veer away from traditional gifts. Straying away from typical presents like wallets, colognes, or watches, Philia has developed a line of Father's Day products specifically tailored to their preferences.
So many of them like to experience a little bit more, and they only get the crab and rice, or you know, maybe like a cologne or something like that, but we have a lot more to offer. So we have a pampering canister. We call it the male canister, that includes a lot of our items. It's a compilation of a sugar scrub, body oil. You can get body butters, socks, loofahs, etc. And so, you know, just to give them a little bit more variety.
And as for the future of her business?
You know, I would love to have a storefront and possibly be the next Bahamian Bath and Body Works.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Well, CBS Bahamas is hosting its 9th annual Father's Day Grill Masters competition this coming Saturday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Southwest Plaza. The company's marketing manager, Sean Gomez, says they have put a twist on one of the company's favorite events.
Event actually, and this one is a bit different. So usually what happens is that we allow 12 children to submit an essay with their parents. We select the top 12 from whoever submits, and then we bring them in to actually compete with their fathers. This year, we're using the children from the Ranthony Home for Children because we want to give them a unique experience to be able to have something to actually do during the Father's Day time. And so we're going to allow 10 celebrity fathers to be paired with them, and they're going to compete. So the grill situation is really simple. Pretty much the fathers only bring their seasonings because the seasonings is what brings the personality to the meat. Everything else we basically provide for them. The Ranthony home in this case will get the grand prize, which is a huge grill with basically every single thing that you would need in order to grill. And then the fathers who agreed to participate, they also would get a grill. So everybody walks away a winner, and it's just a fun experience. We're having up to 50% off sale during this event.
Well, here are some of the celebrity dads who will be participating.
Well-known men in the Bahamian society. So, for example, we have the managing director of the Bahamas Development Bank, Nicholas Higgs. We have the member of parliament for Nassau Village. We have Jamal Strawn. We actually have the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Mario Boleg will be there as well. We'll have some entrepreneurs like Antonio from Rawbill. We'll have some younger fathers, Ray and Mikey from Guidance Family. Yeah, it's a list of I think a diverse list of men who could really impact these children. That they'll be able to go home and say, hey, I had the cool opportunity of spending the full day with Marcus Lang, who is an architect and real estate agent. So things like that, that's what we really want to do.
It sounds like a great time, just in time for Father's Day. And happy Father's Day to all of the dads here at Verizon Media, Paramount Systems, the ILTV studios. That does it for us here at Eyewitness News. It's certainly been a pleasure having you in our company tonight. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Janae Nawal saying good night, be safe. BTH with Shanique Miller is up next.
Tired
The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Alive, still connected, still with you.
It's a brand new week in Review Fridays here on Beyond the Headlines. It's great to have you along this evening. I'm Shanique Miller. Let's get started. A 17-year-old boy is dead this evening after reportedly being the victim of a police shooting. The suspect was reportedly attempting to or having just robbed a restaurant on East Bay Street when an off-duty police officer identified himself. There was an exchange of fire, according to the police reports, and the 17-year-old suspect shot, taken to hospital, and succumbed to his injuries. That is just one of the stories that we're looking at this evening as we look at many of the headline stories that got your attention this week. And we're going to get started right there. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines contributors, and certainly, of course, the Week in Review contributors on Fridays. Leslie Miller, Garth Rosborough. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas.
Yes,
Happy
absolutely.
Father's Day to everybody.
Happy Father's Day, my brothers. I hope you all got children.
You know what? Happy Father's Day to you, Leslie. Of course, to my father, Apostle C.J. Miller. I am happy you reminded me, guys. And also, Garth, happy Father's Day to you.
Yeah, I have a father. Yes. Yeah, I'm good. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. So gentlemen, let's just jump right in. Leslie, I know we it's so much to get to. Garth, there's a lot to get to, but let's just talk about that 17-year-old who got caught doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and who was there to witness it all and try and stop it. An off-duty police officer. Of course, it didn't end well for the 17-year-old. But what do we even think of when we hear something like this? A teenager committing a crime, an armed robbery, according to the reports.
I just wonder, where are all these guns coming from? How does a 17-year-old even find himself able to brandish a gun, first of all? I'm thankful that the officer was there. Our lives may have been saved by him being there. It gives us greater security in our minds that law enforcement can assist us in such times. But for this young man, we as a country cannot afford to lose one more male child. We are seriously under attack in this country. We're losing our men to prison. We're losing our men into the graveyards. We're losing our men who are changing their genders. We're losing our men from lack of employment. Everything else is going on against the men. And I continue to plead to those in the listening audience around the world and here in the Bahamas, do what you can to encourage the young men to become great men. Do not overlook this, because by us doing so, these are the tragic stories that we're hearing now. It's not him alone. Unfortunately, there may be more to come in the future if we do not begin to correct the whole idea of mentoring our young men in our society to become contributors to our national product.
It was really sad to learn of the shooting of this young man. I suppose the officer had no choice but to shoot in self-defense. The young man had a gun in his hand.
Yeah, and opened fire, in fact.
As my brother said just now, when I was in Camp Road campaigning in the last general elections, there were a few deaths up there, murders. And we went to one apartment complex, and the guy was telling us they will lease you a gun for $100 a week. What? No, the guys actually lease a gun. You want to borrow a gun, you give me $100, I lend you the gun, and you bring my gun back. So I'm not at all surprised that he could have gotten a pistol to go and rob a place. It's unfortunate, because remember now, he has a mother too. And I'm sure he has a father. The father must probably not be around, but I'm sure he has siblings too, and it's just unfortunate. But our police force is a wonderful police force. They have every right to defend themselves and to defend others. And it should not have happened. And I hope, like my colleague said, that we would try our best as parents and those who live in the surrounding communities to try to assist these young men and women, young boys really, to be better children, to know that there's so much more in life. You have a long life. God has promised us 10. Why would you want to end it at 17? You have to stay out of trouble. But you know what it is? Bad company. I always tell my kids, my grandkids, stay away from bad company, stay away from drugs.
Be the stronger one. And just as you said, Leslie, stay away. Exactly.
Walk away from it. You know, some guys want to show off, I got to be one of the brothers. You don't have to be one of nobody. Just be what your parents taught you to be. Be decent, be respectful, and for God's sake, stay out of trouble, because you could lose your life just like that young man, 17 years old. Can't even vote yet. He's a child, really. He's gone. Condolences to the family, but I'm happy that no one else was hurt. And the police officer, I'm sure he would carry that weight on his head, on his chest for the rest of his life. I'm very sorry about that. Very sorry.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate, just all around. Moving along, gentlemen, another story that was viral on social media as well as in mainstream media was really the story of a 36-year-old Andress woman, Raquel Williamson, who I guess statutorily raped a 13-year-old. She is charged with sexual assault. She was charged, I think it was the day before yesterday. Yes, she was hauled before the courts. And so, right, brought here to New Providence, and it happened. And so you all, what do we say about that? And I know we tend to, and when I say we, the world really, to look at a woman either having a relationship with or raping an underage boy. Leslie, you don't think it's rape? Raping an underage boy, we look at it differently than, say, mature men and who would do the same. But what do you say about that? And I don't know if she's a teacher. Her profession was not disclosed at this point. But certainly, of course, something to think about. Gentlemen?
That's another sad situation. It's not the first time it's occurred. As a matter of fact, when I talk to some of my classmates from back in the 80s, they tell me all these stories about how they used to even sleep with teachers as they were teenagers. And so this is something that is out there. I guess it's a worldwide phenomenon because we've heard of American teachers sleeping with children. And young men, we always have a fantasy about our teachers because our teachers are so much more mature, you know, especially like I had one particular teacher, not calling any particular genre or person, but she used to wear mini skirts, and I used to sit in my class and say, my God, you know, I was ready to just let it all hang out. But you know, if you approach a young man who's a teenager, more than likely he's not going to say no. He's definitely going to engage. His curiosity is going to get the best of him. Your hormones are just totally out of control as a teenager, and so I can imagine this young man was fearful, as well as he was intrigued as to why this was actually reported and how she was actually caught. That is left to be seen by way of evidence. But definitely a very, very sad situation, but it does happen in this country. You have to be careful who is in the company of your children, whether it's a male child or a female child. I too, as an adult, I got raped as an adult before. I mean, I didn't press any charges, but you know, it's something that happens to many men, many men in this country. And so that's even I mean, you may agree with me, but it happens. Now, if it was reversed, where a man had actually raped a 13-year-old girl, oh, of course, we would be in total outrage. I mean, it would be war. But when we as men, I'll be very honest, when we hear about a teacher or an adult raping a 13-year-old boy, I'll tell you the truth, some guys say, boy, he lucky, eh? So, I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, we nation and all, we just a type of perverse and promiscuous people, you know.
But it's unfortunate. I share your views totally. It's difficult for us to comprehend as men that, you know, 13-year-old guy now just could be a big fella.
Yeah.
Tall, lanky, and what have you. Most of them are big anyhow. Look, 18, 19.
Yeah, big on
I think it's an intrigue factor. I'm just sorry that the person, the lady who was charged, did not use greater discretion, or maybe she didn't know his age. You know, mind you, many young fellas, 13, but already been involved in sexual activities.
That's
so
correct.
Don't sell them short either.
That's correct.
Not this guy's a little virgin hanging around, you know. It's unfortunate, and I'm surprised that someone would have reported it to the police, to be honest with you. A young woman, she's in her 30s, and she fell at 13. But I guess got the best of her. And these things happen. Unfortunate, but that's life.
Yeah.
Well, Shanique, I question how is this now going to psychologically affect him as a young male child? That's my concern. Does it turn him off from women? Has he now opened the Pandora box of sexuality the way he wants more sexuality? Does it make him a person who wants to also practice this very same art of rape? He's going to need some help. And so I
You
would
really
hope,
believe so? You really,
I would
think
hope,
it's all of that? I mean, as Leslie said, and we're just obviously taking liberty and giving analysis and assumptions here, just based on the headlines. But as Leslie said and speculated, that the average 13-year-old nowadays perhaps would have already had an experience.
Regular fellow on the block, he knows what's going on.
I doubt that he would be influenced to either pick up a life of crime in terms of sexual assaults and that kind of thing.
Well, it's possible, and if it does happen, then they revert and go back to this very same situation. So this is why he is the way he is. So I'm just simply saying, to safeguard against that, he's going to need professional counseling.
He's probably angry as hell with someone who go on and talk on the woman.
Yeah, he could have been caught in a situation where, it's like, oh, I got caught, now I have to just get out of the situation, and so he reports it. I don't know. But I'll just be honest with me. If it was me who got raped by a pretty 36-year-old woman, I was 13, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. I mean, when I was 13, I was ready to go. I was very curious. I was ready to go. But for this young man, I'm only giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's a decent Christian, upright young man, and no one needs to take away your innocence unless you want it to be given. And so, whereas I may have wanted mine to be given away at 39, I ain't getting none until later on in life. But when you finally get some, I don't know anyone who...
It more than likely was the same set of circumstances here. However, of course, we know that this man, young boy, cannot give consent until 16.
That's correct.
And he is underage, so with the mental capacity to give consent, it certainly does not dwell with him. And her being the adult, it is assumed that she would have known better. And even if there was some attraction, I mean, quickly and try ward that off totally, and continue moving, continue moving forward. But it is unfortunate, very unfortunate. We'll watch and see what comes out of that case as it pursues and as it progresses.
Good luck, little buddy.
So I want to talk about the Minister of National Security says that this here is sort of just the build up to that, the build up to this. 64% increase in sexual assaults, rapes in New Providence.
Yes.
Now, gentlemen, that kind of reputation and headline is what we don't need going across the world. It has. It is quite frightening what is sort of trending right now, and I'm so careful with words, but it's quite frightening to hear the National Security Minister talk about this, the fact that this 64% increase of rapes. Yeah,
crime is down.
Rape is a crime.
Rape is a crime. How do we address that, and what do we even attribute that to?
As I just travel throughout the island of New Providence, right? The one thing that bothers me, even though I'm a man's man, how the women are now dressing. They're exposing everything. I mean, the breast is hanging out. They're wearing these tights that are showing what they call the camel toe and all the rest of that stuff. Their legs are exposed. And there's just some men who don't have the mental capacity to understand that, we need to just turn a blind eye to this. We need to be decent people. I'm going to ask the young ladies to just dress more appropriately.
Garth Rosborough.
Yes.
As an educated man, you would know that these women's group and all the rest of them would quickly scream at you to say it doesn't matter if a woman is naked strutting down the street. Naked. I mean naked.
I agree.
Like with nothing on naked.
I agree.
That doesn't give you the right to become aroused. And even if you think that you are aroused, take that and go jump in the nearest pond somewhere, and it gives you no entitlement to go and sexually assault that woman.
I agree, but I'm speaking now about safeguarding oneself.
No, it's smart advice, but I'm saying regardless of how a woman is dressed, how short, how long, how fitted, how loose the garment, or if there is no garment, it's not an invitation to say, hey.
I agree. And I'm only simply saying, that we're in a country where there's narcotics, people are smoking this weed all day long, people drink excessively in this country. And so you lose your very person, you lose your very way of thinking. An off-balance group of men prevail in this country. And so I'm only simply saying, no man has a right to ever touch a woman. I agree. But women, do yourself a favor, though. Protect your image, protect yourself, protect your dress.
Very smart advice.
Don't expose something that doesn't have to be exposed until you're in your bedroom with the person that you want to expose it to. Leave something for my curiosity, for me to wonder and go home and say, boy, I wonder what she's like, or I wonder how she looks. Leave that for the imagination. Don't just put it out there and show everything, because there are some men who don't have the mental capability to just say, you know what, I respect a woman no matter what she's wearing.
It appears that the greatest problem that the women face in this country now are those who are seeking a ride. I noticed the last 3 that I read in newspapers, where men was up for rape. They give a young lady, a schoolgirl, what have you, a ride, someone catching a ride from work. You pick them up, you want to go home, and they end up someplace else. I think it's a serious problem where you have, because you give a person a ride, you have a right to take advantage of them. It's a very serious problem, because no one has the right to take advantage of any woman.
Lock them up.
They don't consent.
Lock that man up.
And the minister said that crime is down 50% and rape is up 83%.
Wow.
So that's a serious problem. Serious problem. And I trust that they would deal with it as they have a right to deal with it. And the women, just as you indicated, must be more watchful and more careful in the way you dress, in the law that you show to men. You know, this is me and who I am, you know, and
I know that we think that,
to
right,
go nuts.
we think that we've come of age and we can dress any which way. And of course that's right, certainly to a great extent. But also you must be more discerning of how we still present ourselves, what it is that even our interactions with men, and certainly the very smart thing to do, coming off of dress, let me just focus on this. I don't care if it's raining, I don't know, sheets. And you know, it was on Monday evening with that, I think, another 17-year-old girl who was unfortunately assaulted. Do not go seek shelter somewhere. Do not get into a vehicle with someone you don't know, even sometimes if it's a family friend. Do not. Just wait the rain out.
Stay out of harm's way.
And get home or wherever you're headed the best way you can after the rain would have let up. And so certainly, of course, I'm sure there's much more advice that we all can give and lend, but that's what it is. Very quickly, before we wrap up this segment, something else that became such a major debate and discussion. In fact, it was quite heated, the exchange on the floor of Parliament in the House of Assembly as the budget debate, 2023-2024 budget is progressing. And that is the Minister of Immigration's contribution on immigration. But of course, I'm talking about the port deal.
Yes.
You guys have been following this argument. I'll tell you what I want to read very quickly before I hear the jingle, and then we can go. Now, this port deal was brokered under the Minnis administration. Bell's whole thing is, listen, the Minnis administration and whoever brokered that deal basically gave it away. There's so much more revenue that can be gotten from this deal. Let me just read this from the NCP. This is the Nassau Cruise Port that they released, this release of what the government is going to get.
Yes.
It shows that the government is set to get $78.1 million in cruise-related revenues this year and $85.3 million next year. This compares to so it's still an increase, get this you all, this compares to the $34.1 million the NCP is estimated to bring in the next fiscal year, and the $47.4 million the following year. And so you Leslie, you agree, Garth, I didn't get what your thoughts about it. You agree that with Keith Bell that it was a poor deal on behalf of the Bahamian people, where so much more money to be made and will be made and is being made.
I think during the years of the pandemic, and we had just coming out of Dorian, that the government at that particular time understood that the economy was basically against us. We saw where there was actually no U.S. currency floating around the country during the time of the pandemic. And so a more desperate government would broker such a deal in order to secure economic growth. And I think this was their major thrust. All they simply wanted to show the Bahamian people is that, you know what? We're going to bring a new development. We're going to get some more income coming in. Right now, we're flat on our face. We have to show the Bahamian people something. Anything would do at this particular point just to show the Bahamian people that we're working. And so I wouldn't necessarily judge that particular previous administration in this regard, even though it looks horrendous. Yes, more could have been made, but for Mr. Bell to simply say it's the worst deal ever, he was not one of those government officials during the time of the pandemic or during the times of post-Dorian.
And on top of that, Garth, I should note before you continue and Leslie jump in, Prime Minister Davis and Deputy Prime Minister Cooper basically agreed that this deal is something that is good, and let it happen. This is what is being reported widely.
They agreed that the port was a first-class port. That's what they agreed to. That's what you normally see when you have visitors or an investor that did so. But remember, over a 5-year period, the port itself, and don't get the port mixed up with head counts.
Of course.
That's no money coming from that company.
Of course.
That's coming from the passengers, just like the airlines that brings people here.
Yes.
The government gets so much per head, we get so much per head. That has nothing to do with the deal between the, this port of Nassau and the government of the Bahamas. And again, to give you an example, in 5 years, that port would receive in revenue 575,800,000. And the government, the people's treasury, is going to get 18 million. That's less than 5%. That's outrageous, it's egregious. And I don't care how dumb that last administration was. They could have been smarter than that. Now they said that.
But what are your thoughts with Garth and what Garth said? Garth said, listen, at the time that deal was broken and looked into, we were coming out of where nothing, like the economy was at a total standstill, nothing was happening, and so they wanted to quickly broker that to say they got something is happening in the economy.
During that same time, the government spent $44 million of the people's money, okay, to upgrade the port by attempting to put more boats there. This company is already trying to sell the port now. It's on the market now, internationally for sale. Okay? Why should they get $575 million and the people get 18? The head count got nothing to do with the port. Nothing whatsoever. Please, payments, do not believe the garbage. And I am shocked that the Guardian and the Tribune would come up with this. And you know why? They both have a vested interest. Who owns the Guardian? Kalina. Who did?
Leslie, leave that alone.
Okay.
That part right there.
Okay.
Don't call.
Like I said though, and I've learned this at my stage in life, Shanique. When your person, I won't say backside, is in the hole, only you know what you're going through. That administration,
but you can't give it
the
away.
last administration, I agree, I'm agreeing with you,
no,
but I'm agreeing with you,
you're right.
looking back. But while you're in the situation,
but Garth is saying while you're in the trenches,
your head ain't right, things ain't right.
Your head is right.
But it simply shows today, based on your argument, their head couldn't be right.
They gave it away.
But they gave it away because their head wasn't right. That's all I'm simply saying.
But they did, hold on. Do you realize that in 1997, the last Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism was given Carnival Cruise Line $6.50 for every passenger they bought to this country that was under the F&M too. Giving them $6.50 for every passenger. I believe that has stopped now. These guys have always been outrageous in giving away our money and working these poor deals just like they did with our Rockport. That's another giveaway on behalf of the people.
Desperate attempts to make something happen.
That's dumb and stupid.
No,
what it is.
Gentlemen, I thank you both very much. Again, this was extremely heated. Right here, you see it's heated here. It was just as heated in Parliament this week as well. This debate on the port deal that Immigration Minister Keith Bell addressed during his budget contribution. I thank you very much, Leslie. I thank you very much, Garth. Listen, as usual, Week in Review Fridays. Never a dull moment. Tell you that. Don't go anywhere though. We are just getting started. If I could just finish my sentences. Leslie, if I hear you, Bob. Stay exactly where you are. Beyond the Headlines is back after this.
This is the super versatile Ring Stick-Up Cam. It goes indoors, outdoors, outdoors in the rain. It's got two-way talk.
Hey, Eddie.
Works with Alexa. Comes in tons of power options and works with Ring Alarm to start recording automatically if something's going on.
Seriously?
Seriously. So start protecting your home with the easy installing indoor-outdoor Stick-Up Cam by Ring.
It's smart. Cancer pushes us. We push back. Challenging conventional thinking, finding smarter solutions, like advanced genomic testing, a diagnostic tool that lets us see cancer at the molecular level, then helps us find different ways to attack it. That's what makes CTCA one of the leaders in precision cancer treatment. We're not just fighting cancer,
Once upon a time, not too far away, CBS Bahamas was born. The year was 1973, and CBS stood before the Bahamas with the promise of becoming the nation's one-stop shop for home building and improvement, from bathroom nuances to paint, windows, doors, and kitchen cabinets. CBS was quickly crowned king by its customers. CBS Bahamas is one of the country's leading home centers, and your proud one-stop shop when bringing your new home to life. CBS is a leading supplier and installer of architectural building products, ready to equip your home with the perfect windows and doors. CBS's goal is to make your life and home build stress-free, so you can live happily ever after in the palace of your dreams, with impeccable quality and a price match guarantee. Feel empowered to live happily ever after with CBS. Build beautiful.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. Well, we're going to shift now to the island of Long Island, where residents there have many complaints, including no banking facilities, the roads that's an issue, and also the fact that the Internal Revenue, Inland Revenue Office has been removed from the office. And according to one resident there, it's causing the second homeowners who want to pay their real property taxes, kind of tying their hands and not able to do so. And so we're going to speak with Selena Burrows, a taxi driver and tow operator there in Long Island, who's joining us now. Hello, Selena. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Hi, good evening, Shanique. Good evening, Bahamas. Thank you for having me on your show this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you speaking. I know that you reached out and wanting to have a number of things addressed, and of course, very happy to have that conversation with you. You're a businesswoman with your husband, and so are many people in Long Island. It's a fishing village, farming, and tourism-related businesses, just like you're talking about. Well, how are you managing without banking facilities, and how long has this been the case?
Well, it's very difficult for us here on Long Island without any banking facilities. The banks have moved out of Long Island. We had Scotiabank and Royal Bank, and they both pulled out about 5-6 years ago. So we are here without any banking facilities. However, they have left an ATM at Scotiabank, which is located in the settlement of Buckley's. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive from the northern part of the island. So the ATM is located in the south.
So the one
and to get there takes you about an hour to drive.
An hour to drive. So the one thing that resembles a banking facility is an ATM, and it's an hour plus away from where you are.
Yes, ma'am. And also, let me mention there's Omni, which also has an ATM. Royal Bank pulled out of that building. So Omni International, that does bank transfers, they're there offering minimal services because you can only do deposits. You cannot do any withdrawals or cash checks or anything of that sort.
Well, how are business owners like yourself and just residents in general who receive a paycheck, etc., how are they managing that, you can say?
What we do, if we get a check, we have to deposit it into the ATM, and you can only withdraw so much from that. And any monies you get, you have to go like 2-3 times per week to make deposits, which is also another challenge for us because sometimes you go there because of internet challenges. The ATM is out of service, and it takes sometimes hours, sometimes you wait a couple days before the service is up again.
How much of an inconvenience is it? I mean, where do you store your money if you can't drive to these areas, these two areas that you talked about with ATM machines? Where do residents store the money? I mean, thank goodness it's a family island where it's relatively safe. But again, how much of an inconvenience is it?
It's very inconvenient, Shanique, because it puts you at a security risk. Thank goodness, like you say, it's a family island where we don't have a lot of crime, but God forbid that people think about places you would want to keep your money and you're a target for robbery. But we try to go to the ATM as often as we can when it is up and working, but most of the times you're not able to do deposit because sometimes you can make a withdrawal and then the deposit part of it is not working. So for us, it's very frustrating as you drive all this way, about an hour and 15 minutes, and sometimes you get there, the ATM is down, so you're not able to make a deposit, so you have to go back with your money.
Yeah, quite vexing, I imagine. Another issue that you brought to my attention and the attention of Beyond the Headlines is the fact that we know there's a whole lot being made out of government collecting its taxes, its revenue, etc., in the way of real property tax. And you were saying that there are many residents, second home owners, who have done it over the years and are waiting to do it, but are unable to do so. Tell us about what's happening there in that regard.
Yeah, this is a big concern for our second homeowners and foreign residents here on the island. I worked at the Department of Inland Revenue for a number of years. My contract expired in 2021 and it was not renewed. Therefore, the office was closed last year, October.
You were the
so
sole
there's no
person.
staff in place to collect revenue.
Selena, you were the sole person working at the Internal Revenue Office?
Yes, ma'am. The only person working there that dealt with real property taxes, business license, renewals, new licenses, VAT, and all inquiries related to those areas. I was the only staff that dealt with that.
And the office is closed?
Yes, ma'am, from October 13, 2022.
And you dismissed?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were saying there's a real need for the office, the presence of the office there on Long Island?
Yes, there's definitely a need. After my departure in October, I've had persons calling me because that is the busy period. November, December, January, February, March is the peak season for government collection of real property taxes. All business licenses expire December 31st. So I've been bombarded with persons calling me trying to get a tax bill to pay their property taxes or trying to renew their business license. And even though there's an online system, you know the challenges we have here in Long Island with internet. You've seen that direct from me, Shanique, these past 2 days. I was trying to connect with you and not able to do so because of internet challenges. So even though you have a site that you can go on to make a payment, most of the time you're not able to access the site. So persons are calling, trying to send in a check or trying to make a credit card payment or to make a payment somehow to the Department of Inland Revenue, and you're not able to do so because of these issues. So you definitely need someone in place to assist these customers when trying to make payments.
And just speaking about second homeowners alone, what would you guesstimate is the number of them waiting to make payments and haven't been able to, and just the revenue in total that the government is missing out on at the moment?
I would say there's approximately 300 plus second homeowners and property tax owners here on the island. And I know for sure we have some $10+ million in outstanding revenue that has to be collected because of delinquencies, persons not being able to access the online portal. And it's really an inconvenience for persons trying hard to make payments when the government needs revenue. We need to get this resolved and need to get that office reopened.
Yeah, absolutely. It really sounds like that. 10+ million, you know what that is. Certainly a nice little boost to get into the public purse. I want to ask you another issue that you have, and I want to say before I ask you about this, that there is a contract out to the Rowdy Boys of Long Island to repair miles and miles and miles of road. I'm not sure, Selena, if it involves the roads that you're about to speak on, but they were here a couple of weeks ago. They have been awarded the contract to do so. I imagine the works will get started very shortly. But you are saying, as a taxi driver, owner, and tour operator, that getting guests that visit Long Island from one point to the next is trying to navigate an obstacle course.
Yes, it's a nightmare Driving in the northern part, especially from Stella Maris Marina to Seymour's, it's like navigating the ocean in a storm because you have to duck and dive and dodge the potholes, and it's very frustrating. A lot of guests, when they come, you take them from the airport to the resort, and you have to apologize for the bad condition of the road. You have to drive on the right-hand side when you should be on the left because you're trying to duck the potholes. If you drop in a hole, some of the holes are so wide, you can puncture your tire. We're constantly changing brakes. We have to order tires like every month.
We are looking
you
right
need
now.
CV joints, bearing. It's just too much on the taxi drivers, the SD car rental companies. And when the guests rent cars, they're not familiar with the road, so they're dropping in potholes. I pass them on the side of the road constantly with flat tires because they have hit holes and the tire just go flat. So it's really bad. The Raleigh Boys were granted the contract, I understand, for 119 miles of road, which is the majority of Long Island Road, because the island is only about 90 miles long, so they're doing side roads also. But I think they should concentrate on fixing the roads in the northern part of the island, which have been dubbed up from 2020. And they have not been able to pave it because of supply chain demand issues, because other issues with the barge not being able to come in. When the barge did come in with some tar, it couldn't come into the dock because the water was too shallow, so it had to go back, and the tar went back. So we don't know when the tar is going to be coming in to repair the roads, but it's really, really bad.
Yeah, we're
just
looking
the
right
northern
now.
section, like I mentioned, from Stella Maris Marina to Seymour's is really bad.
Selena, we're looking at some video right now of driving. I think that's you driving and just showing us how you drive a van, right? And how the van is bobbing up and down because, of course, you're getting through and over potholes that are quite huge. And so you're saying that this is what you have to kind of drive through and on. You including every other motorist there on the island to get tourists from the airport to their hotels to their Airbnb, wherever it is their destination is.
Yes, the roads are really bad. Even though some of the ones that were dug up and level off with some fill, because of all the rain that we've had in the past 2 weeks, you can't really see the potholes in the road that's dug up because the fill has been washed off. But driving, you feel the bumps. You have to go as slow as possible. So it takes you like twice the length of time that you would have normally driven from the airport to the resort, or to take a guest to an Airbnb or to a restaurant for dinner. You have to leave at least a half hour earlier to get there in time because you have to navigate around the potholes. It's very, very bad, and it's a terrible first impression for guests and tourists who are coming to Long Island.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, well, Selena, I'm happy to kind of, I guess, bring the issues of Long Island through you to the country and hopefully to the authorities. Again, though, we know that the contracts were issued for roadworks to begin. Certainly, so that should be addressed shortly, but all the other issues that you brought up this evening, we certainly grateful to you for bringing them to the forefront and, of course, hoping that you get some resolution, you and every other resident there.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Shanique. I hope the powers that are listening are hearing our cries and can understand the pain, the suffering, the money that it's costing us daily, weekly to operate our businesses. And we hope they give us some speedy resolution to the road situation, also the banking and the Inland Revenue Office. I hope it's open soon so to assist our customers who want to pay revenue into the Treasury. So thank you so much for having me, and we wish the best for Long Island and its residents.
Absolutely, absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for speaking with us. This is Beyond the Headlines. We're back right after this.
Thank you.
back to Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. I hope you're enjoying your Friday. Let's just continue on with this evening's show. Monday is World Sickle Cell Day. Of course, there's an organization that's been for years bringing awareness to sickle cells and the disease and how you can live with it and through it. I am happy to welcome this mother and daughter duo on this platform. I've spoken with them before when I hosted the other show. And they're here, though, to talk about Monday and also about a new organization and foundation that they are just about ready to launch called Sickle Talk. We're going to find out what that's about. So please welcome to Beyond the Headlines, Crizia Bartlett, who's president of the foundation, and her mother, Kayla Smith. Kayla Smith, by the way, Vice Consul of the Bahamas Consulate. Kayla Smith, of course, welcome to Beyond the Headlines as well. Ladies, it's good to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. I've spoken to you both before, and you've been relentless in your pursuit just to continue raising awareness, continue having Bahamians be aware, and perhaps obviously take steps ahead so that they're healthy and able to navigate through sickle cells. Let's just talk about what the organization has been busy doing so far.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Crizia Bartlett. I am the founder and president of Sickle Talk, which is a platform now gearing towards becoming a nonprofit organization that I started because I didn't think enough people were talking about sickle cell disease. I was diagnosed with the disease at the age of 3, and I too once did not talk about it until I realized that no one knew that I had the disease. So I said, you know, I'm doing myself a disservice, I'm doing the sickle cell community a disservice, so we have to talk about it so people can understand what the disease is, how it feels to have the disease, who is affected by the disease, and so they can understand the severity and why it's so crucial for people to know their sickle cell status. So we live in the Bahamas, which is a predominantly Black country, and many individuals in the Bahamas have the sickle cell trait and are not aware. For example, my mother carried a variant of sickle cell disease, and she had a conversation with my father. She said, hey, I have this disease, and I was always informed that I need not to procreate with anyone else who has the disease. And my father said, no, that disease, I don't know what that is, that no one in my family has the disease. I've never heard from my doctor that I carry this trait. So we're good to go. Boom. I was born with sickle cell disease.
So what are you saying? That your father did not know and had a trait?
He did not know, and he had the trait.
Wow.
And because he had the trait and my mother had the disease, it was a great chance for me to have sickle cell disease, and out of the probability, you know, they rolled the dice and I had sickle cell disease. That's how it happened. And I don't think I had a bad life. I just experienced a lot of pain that I don't wish on anybody. You know, I think not a lot of people realize that there are so many genetic disorders that are preventable once you just have a conversation. So I'm urging the public to have that conversation before you venture in. You see,
Kayla,
I'm a young woman.
Yeah, I know.
28,
I know,
dating,
right?
and that's the first question I ask.
You're kidding. So wait a minute. See, because you'd be like, what your future is? What you want to be? Among your first questions is this. Hey, do you know your sickle cell?
After we've already established that, hey, there is interest, before I waste my time, I need to know what your sickle cell status is.
Crizia, you are totally brave and bold. Of course, you got it from your mother, because Kayla, to see that was sort of in the beginning of you saying, well, before we go any further, let me just inform you about something, and I need some information from you as well.
Yes.
But you were saying, while we may kind of giggle at it here and there, but you were saying, Kayla, that is incredibly important, a conversation to have.
Yes, it was one of the most important questions I could have ever asked anyone. And sadly, he did not know that he had the disease, the trait, because he was never tested properly. He thought just having a regular physical examination, blood work, would have determined if he had it or not. But the only way you know is if you have a HB electrophoresis test. And here it is that we had a daughter and she has sickle cell disease. So it's been a long, long journey.
But you have really stood up like a soldier with Crizia alongside you, because this is not just this year that you're speaking out. This has been a life's work for you both, huh?
Yes, yes. For me, I really plunged into awareness and getting the message out after the birth of Decrizia, and finding out at age 3 that she had the disease, I wanted to bring more people up to speed on the disease and get the word out there so many parents wouldn't have to go through what I went through. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would, but having the conversation and pushing it a little further by testing my partner, I would have done that. But it's here, we're here, and so we're gonna keep on advocating and bringing awareness to this disease and hoping that the government will do some stuff to change the information, how we get information for sickle cell disease, and that we test every baby born in the Bahamas for the disease.
So you want to take it to the point, you want to raise awareness to the point of, like you say, testing every baby at an infant stage for the trait or the disease. The theme this year, Crizia, is building and strengthening global sickle cell communities, formalizing newborn screenings, just as you both are passionate about, and knowing your sickle cell disease status. What does that all mean right there, especially for the Bahamas?
So I would say that means a lot. You know, it's a mouthful. However, each step that you mentioned is very necessary. So the first thing I would say, I, Decrizia Bartlett, I'm standing forth today urging the government of the Bahamas to implement newborn screening, because so many individuals in the Bahamas are born with sickle cell trait and do not know. There's no conversation, people are unaware, and they go on and procreate with someone else and have a child that has sickle cell disease. And we're not saying that that's bad. It's not a bad thing to have sickle cell disease. However, it's a very painful experience and it alters every single part of your life. I continuously tell people I would never wish what I went through on my worst enemy.
Are you beyond it? Because you're saying went through, and you said, and I know your mom as well had some traits of it. Just talk about, let the country know what is it, and then again, you mentioned pain. Is it joint pain? What is it?
So let me break it down for you. Sickle cell disease is a group of inherited red blood cell disorders due to an abnormality in a protein known as hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is responsible for transporting oxygen throughout the body. So due to this abnormality, you know, in regular or normal or healthy red blood cells, they're donut-shaped, bouncy, and flexible. They move through blood vessels easily. However, in sickled cells, they're hard, rigid, and get stuck through blood vessels. And when these sickled cells get stuck through blood vessels, we have something known as a vaso-occlusive crisis or a sickle cell crisis. And a sickle cell crisis can occur in any single part of the body where blood is moving. So you know that's everywhere. My eye, my toes, my head, my knees, anywhere, and sometimes at all places at the same time, simultaneously. So I've experienced, I think people look at me and they see that I'm okay, so sometimes they think that, you know, sickle cell disease may not be that bad. But only in my later years of life was I able to gain the strength to talk about my disease. I was shy, I didn't want to talk about it, I didn't feel like I was worthy, I didn't feel that I was accepted by society because of this disease. You know, I was always small, I always had yellow eyes, people teased me, made fun of me, and that did something to me mentally. So it affected me in ways that I can't express, and I was hospitalized more than 100 times by the age of 13. So you see me here now, I'm okay because I was able to learn about the disease. When I was younger, I didn't really understand what sickle cell disease was. So I just relied on what my mother said. She said, oh, you need to drink water. I'm a kid, I don't want to drink no water. Oh, you need to wear a sweater. Why? I won't go outside, I won't be playing with my friends. Oh, you need to stay warm. Don't get wet by the rain. Don't overexert yourself. You can't play in PE. All of these things, I never understood why. So I continued to do it, and as a result, I continued to be sick and was always in the hospital. But the more I took initiative, the more I learned about my disease, the more I gained power over my disease. So now I know my triggers. I know my body. I know when I feel something, what that means. I know the process. I know the first step when I think I'm having a bad crisis, I go to the walk-in clinic. I get some fluids, get some oxygen, get some pain medicine. If it's handled correctly, I go home. If not, I know I have to go to the hospital. So I've been able to grow with my disease, and as a result, I've been able to live and thrive.
Kayla, I've spoken with you and Chrysia before, years. You know, this is nothing new. You both have been very vocal, very active. Come Monday, what is it that you're hoping? It's World Sickle Cells Awareness Day. And so what are you hoping to get out there and get done? And then what activity is planned?
Well, for me, I first would like Bahamians to understand that we are a Black nation and the disease is predominantly Black and brown people, but we're now finding that it's also filtering into the Caucasian background. And so every Bahamian, no matter your race, should be tested, because we want children to live normal, healthy lives, not to go through the painful crisis that children with sickle cell disease have. And it's a real burden on parents and other children in the home. So if a child does have the trait or the disease, we want to be able to assist them with awareness and giving them the education that they need to thrive. Like Chrysia said, she's now doing in her later years. But the more information is out there, the more productive families can be that have sickle cell disease. So on this Saturday, there is an event at the walk-in clinic. We're doing free testing. So we want every person who is available, fathers, it's Father's Day, you know, come down and do that for your family. Get tested. And so if you have the trait, you're able to tell your children, and then they can get themselves tested. This is free. And so please come. We'll be there. We can have conversations. There's nothing like a personal story. And so we'll have persons there, personal stories. The Bahamas Sickle Cell Association will also be there. And we'll have lemonade by the Bowtie Sickle Cell young chap who is living with sickle cell disease. So for me, it's awareness. I would want every Bahamian to live their best life.
That's the greatest wish at 50th anniversary of independence that we can all extend to each other. Which walk-in clinic is this and what times?
Okay, so this Saturday, June 17th, at the mall at Marathon location, we, Sickle Talk, in conjunction with the walk-in clinic, will host a mass screening, Know Your Sickle Cell Status event from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Come out, get tested, have a conversation, learn about your sickle cell status, but not just your sickle cell status. In addition to that, we will be offering weight, BMI, blood glucose, hypertension, other gifts, surprises, and more. I can't wait to see you.
And so once again, that's the Mall at Marathon this Saturday from 10 to 3. And go and have a chat with these ladies. Yeah, they're quite engaging. And of course, sharing some very important information as well. I thank you very much, Chrysia Bartlett, President of Sickle Talk, and her mom, Vice President of Sickle Talk, Kayla Smith. It's good to have you both, and good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank all of you very much for tuning in and hanging out all week with us, as well as this evening. We certainly enjoyed having you along, and we look forward to seeing you right back here on Monday evening. Until then, for the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a blessed weekend, everyone.
The Verizon Media Group, home of ILTV, Paramount Systems Limited, Eyewitness News, and Beyond the Headlines.